Okay, so today we started class by either filling in a blank unit circle or following the QR code to do a little quick check. I still encourage you guys to practice and have those memorized, definitely by Monday, hopefully by, well, it'd be nice by Friday, but that's okay if you don't. Let's work on Monday, trying to have those memorized. You can print it out as many times as you want, and you can play the game as many times as you want. Anyway, okay, so for today we're going to be doing the trigonometric functions. We remember sine, cosine, and tangent. So sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, and then you may or may not have heard of them, but we have their reciprocals. Okay, and the reciprocal of sine is cosecant, C-S-C, cosecant. Okay, and that is going to be just the reciprocal of this ratio, H over O. And then we have the secant, that is the reciprocal of cosine, which is H over A. This is secant. And then we have cotangent, cotangent. And that is A over O. So we've got our three main trigonometric functions, and then we have our reciprocals here. And so we're going to find these ratios for angles that are within the unit circle. Okay, so just to get a general idea and set up some formulas for us to use, we've got this random point here at xy. And if I draw that radius, r, which is going to be 1 for all of these angles in the unit circle, then the horizontal change and the vertical change should match up with the coordinates of that point. So the horizontal is x and the vertical is y. And t here is the angle t. T is that angle right there. Okay, so for the sine of angle t, I go opposite over hypotenuse, which would be y over r. Okay? The cosine of t, so cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse. That is going to be x over r. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent, so that will be y over x. Cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine, so I'm just going to put r over y. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine, r over x. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, x over y. And so these are what I'm going to use to evaluate the angles of the unit circle. So here I have a page full of angles. I've got pi over 6, 5 pi over 4, pi, and negative pi over 3. And there's, we're memorizing all of them. So we're going to have to evaluate every single one of them. So pi over 6. So pi over 6 is about 30 degrees. So this right here represents a t of pi over 6. Right? That angle value of pi over 6. So that coordinate, which we've discovered yesterday, was the square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. So what I'm going to do is next to that angle, I'm going to put that coordinate, the square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. That's my x, that's my y, and then my radius for the unit circle is 1. All right, so remember, sine, which we just wrote, was y over r. So my y is 1/2 and r is 1. So anything over 1 is itself. So it's just 1/2. Cosine is x over r. Again, r is 1, so whatever x is, that's what goes right here, the square root of 3 over 2. Tangent is y over x. So this will be 1/2 over the square root of 3 over 2. Now I'm going to come over here to the side. Anytime I divide fractions, I have to multiply by the reciprocal. And those 2's cancel, and I'm left with 1 over the square root of 3. Well, I can't leave it that way. So I multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3, and I end up with the square root of 3 over 3. So right here, this tangent is the square root of 3 over 3. Cosecant. Cosecant is the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So the reciprocal of the square root of 3 over 2 is 2 over the square root of 3, but we can't leave it like that. So 2 over the square root of 3. We have to rationalize it. So I've got 2 square roots of 3 over 3. So I'm going to erase this. 2 square roots of 3 over 3. And the cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. So right here, we did all that work. And do you see this spot right there? That was also a tangent. So if I take the reciprocal of that, I just get the square root of 3. But just for the sake of super fun, we'll take the square root of 3 over 3, and we're going to flip it so that it's 3 over the square root of 3. And then we have to rationalize it. And we get 3 square roots of 3 over 3, where the 3's cancel, and I get the square root of 3. So either way, whether you rationalize it or not. Okay, next angle, 5 pi over 4. So 5 pi over 4, if I draw that circle, is going to be 1 pi over 4, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4, and 5 pi over 4. So this right here, that is going to be at negative square root of 2 over 2 and negative square root of 2 over 2. R is 1. So that's x and that's y. All right, so the sine is basically y over 1. So it's just the y. And cosine is the x over the radius, which is 1. So it's just the x. And tangent is the y over the x. So the y and the x are exactly the same. So anything over itself is 1. Okay, we get that from negative square root of 2 over 2 over negative square root of 2 over 2. And that's where we get the 1. Okay, cosecant is the reciprocal. So now we've got to find the reciprocal of negative square root of 2 over 2. So when I flip it, I still have to rationalize that radical. So I get 2 square roots of 2 over 2, which is just the square root of 2. All right, so this will be the square root of 2, but because that's negative, so is that one. And then here, it's going to be exactly the same. That's what I really like about the pi over 4s. And then what is the reciprocal of 1? 1. Okay, when My angle is pi. That coordinate is right here, pi. So that's going to be -1 and 0 with a radius of 1. This is x, that's y. Okay, so sine is basically my y value. So it's going to be 0. Cosine is my x value. Tangent is going to be y over x. So it will be 0 over -1, which is 0. Cosecant is the reciprocal. Now this right here is going to be 0 over 1, therefore it's 0. So the reciprocal here is 1 over 0, which is undefined. Kind of looks like an A. Undefined. Secant is the reciprocal of -1, and the reciprocal of -1 is -1. And the same thing with cotangent. The reciprocal, if that was our tangent, then our cotangent is also going to be undefined because it will be -1 over 0. All right, then we have our -pi over 3. So here's my circle. -pi over 3 is about right here. So that's going to be positive 1/2 and -square root of 3 over 2 with a radius of 1. There's x, there's y. Okay, sine is basically my y value, so -square root of 3 over 2. And cosine is my x value over 1, of course. And then my tangent is going to be y over x. So I'm going to end up with -square root of 3 over 2 over 1/2. All right, so I'm going to bring that work over here. Remember, when you divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. So -square root of 3 over 2 times 2 over 1. I love it when those cancel out, and I end up with the square root of 3 negative. So this right here is negative square roots of 3. All right, cosecant, reciprocal of sine. So the reciprocal, so I'm going to have 2 over the square root of 3, rationalize. I get 2 square roots of 3 over 3. So this will be -2 square roots of 3 over 3. I could have also gone back up here and looked at the reciprocals. So remember, 30, 60, 90s are 30, 60, 90s. Okay, and then the secant, the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. And for cotangent, if I want the reciprocal, remember that's this is over 1, so I'll do 1 over the square root of 3, rationalize, and I get the square root of 3 over 3 negative. But again, I could have scrolled all the way back up here, and I could have seen the reciprocal relationships right there. Okay? All right, so your assignment for tonight is to take textbook practice page 270. I think it's all on 270, so you just need to work on 9 through 38. Start with the odds, then tackle the evens. Have a wonderful day. Please email me if you have any questions. If we need to work some out, just let me know and we can schedule a time to meet on a Teams meeting. All right. Bye.